Hey guys, Matthew Morrow with Morrow Invest. It is, I believe, November the 30th, 2022, and it's the last day of November. And this is Men's Health Month, mental health. And so I've been dealing with my own mental health issues. And so I thought I would share some of my experience, some things that I've gone through, and some things that I'm trying to do to help remedy that. And I was thinking very seriously, I've posted a couple of things about anxiety and depression lately, and I've had lots of friends reach out, family members and all, that have shared that they're praying for me, and or that they too have struggled or are currently struggling with their mental health, even people being suicidal, feeling completely alone. There's a lot to do in all this. So I just want to kind of share a really short synopsis of the last 20 years. So many of you that have either known me or followed me on social media these last few years, my goal was to be a millionaire by the time I was 40. I've always been very driven, very outgoing. I'm an ESFJ. If anybody is into Myers-Briggs, that means I am on the 95 percentile high end for sales. So I've always been the outside sales personality. I've always been involved in church, and at church, I led Bible study, I did public speaking, I led prayers. I never had a problem doing that. When I was in college, I had no problem being the speaking part for any group work. I've never had a problem getting in front of people and talking, and so there's that as an overview. And then if you followed me, I've always owned multiple businesses, and then of course the goal was to set up passive income streams, and my goal was to be a millionaire by the time I was 40, and I worked very hard on making that happen. I wrote a couple of books. I had a mentorship. I had a investment website where I taught people how to think about business and how to do business. And it seemed like, I'm going to kind of transition in the mental part, that takes a lot of energy. And have you ever heard, you can't pour from an empty cup? Well, I was kind of like refilling my cup and emptying it as fast as I could get it filled, and that leads to burnout. And there's a couple of different ways I was burning out. One, this is not a negative necessarily, but I was leading Bible study. I was doing Sunday school. I was doing, Wednesday night. I was doing the small group leader. So, on Sunday afternoon, I would spend making up whatever lesson that I was going to try to teach on Sunday night, and doing Bible studies, and just trying to lead. And then the rest of the week, for those of you that have jobs and don't own your own business, just imagine all of your bills and then tomorrow figure out how to pay those bills. That's owning your own business. That's what I did. So I had my lawn service and tree service. I was an insurance broker. I was a Series 7 and 63 licensed registered rep. I also cut down trees and recycled scrap metal, and had rental properties, flipped houses, flipped cars, all kinds of ways that I made money. But it's like spinning plates. So you imagine if you've ever seen somebody spin basketballs, and you have like 15 balls on them, or they're spinning a bunch of plates. It takes a lot of effort to keep all that going. And I remember when I was starting to feel the burnout start, not only did I have, along the way, you're going to have people that take advantage of you, or have the wrong perception of you, or despite your best efforts to do the right thing or have people like you, not everybody's going to like you. Some people, it's out of their own pain, things that go on in their lives. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes it's their own insecurities. Sometimes it's the devil working against you. you know. Sometimes it might be the Lord allowing you in a situation to teach you some lesson. So for whatever reason, there's always going to be things happening, negative things. I mean, life is hard. And so along this journey, there's been a lot of disappointments. There's been a lot of highs, but there's also been a lot of lows. And trying to navigate through all those things, you know, by the time I got into my late 20s, early 30s, I remember my income had been going up every year. Every year I would set new goals, and I would reach those goals. I was very good at reaching my goals, and they would always be bigger than the year before. And so every year for a long time, 15 or 20 years, my income went up. And I remember, and this is not bragging, I'm trying to share my experience with you. I remember the year, like it had kind of gone up. It was like 50, and then it was 58, and then it was 62, and then it was, 70. I think I hit 72 one year, and then it was like my goal for the next year was to hit the $100,000 mark and be six figures. You know, that was the big thing, to be six figures without moving the decimal. Well, anyway, I had made 72 the year before, and so as I always did, I kept track of where I was, basically weekly. I don't want to sound too anal about my goals, but I did. I had spreadsheets, and every time I made deposits, I kept up with where I was towards my goal. And that's kind of being efficient, but it's also kind of lazy. It's both. It would be like if my goal was to make $200 a day, and I made $400 on Monday, I might take Tuesday off because I've already made that $200, so I can take a day off and still be on my goal, if that makes sense. So I was always trying to stay on my task, trying to stay on goal. And I remember I made 72 the year before, and here it was around my birthday. It was end of June. Actually, it was the first or second day of July, because I remember it was July 4th weekend. And I was figuring stuff up, and I knew that I was going to make more than $100,000 that year because I had a house that I was flipping that was about to close, and that was going to be like $30,000 of profit. And then I was going to, in November of that same year, I knew I was closing on another house. And that year, before I get to that, I knew in my head I was going to break that $100,000 mark. So by the end of the year, that year, I not only, I had been doing incrementally, 55, 60, 65, 70. That year, I made $142,000. And I remember calling my best friend depressed. Like, it bummed me out. You would think you've hit this goal and you've achieved this thing. This is a good thing, but it really bummed me out. And the reason it bummed me out is because it was a lot of work. I mean, I was selling, that year I sold insurance policies, cut down trees, recycled scrap metal, flipped a few houses, flipped a few cars. I mean, I did a ton of work to hit that goal, and I knew that the next year I was going to have to hit that goal again. Long story short, let's move forward to 2016. 2016 and 2017 were horrible. I did two things. I was burned out on spinning all those plates, cutting grass and recycling metal and all that stuff. So what I did was I said to myself, every time I get a new rental property, that's $800 a month, then I will take that off of other work that I'm doing. So I had gotten down to where I basically did a soft retirement at 35. So I was 35 years old, and I basically took a soft retirement. I'm getting to depression and stuff later, but I'm trying to get you to how I got there. So I've always been an emotional person. I'm emotionally driven, and that kind of goes into my rental properties because I was managing my own rental properties, and it was very, very tough because I would get my feelings hurt. I was too emotionally involved in the properties. Here, I had helped some person by not allowing them to put down a deposit. I helped them get their lights turned on. I even maybe donated furniture to them, or I helped them in some way. Some of them I remember I got a lady a laptop that needed a laptop, and anyway, and for then these people to a month later to say I can't pay the rent, and not only that, but I'm not leaving. Good luck getting me out. So in 2016, a few years before, the Landlord Tenant Act of Alabama changed, and I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and the court system was just ridiculous. I mean, they would allow people to get up there and just trash talk me, saying that I was just the most horrible person in the world after I'd been trying to help them. And then of course, I'm having to evict them, so I'm having to pay $350 for the eviction, for the court fee. Plus, I'm having to wait months, 2 and 3 months, to get them out of the place legally. And then they can destroy the place, and they did. And so in 2016, I had 4 back-to-back-to-back places where I had rehabbed a house, put a tenant in place, the tenant immediately stopped paying, and then destroyed the place, and then I had to redo it all over again. So it was like I redid 5 places back-to-back-to-back. And the last place that I walked into, it just ripped my heart out. I walked in, and this lady had left her son there and left the property, and he ripped 8 doors off hinges, punched holes in every cabinet, every wall. I mean, when you walked in the back door, and I remember looking to the left, and I could see through the living room, through the bathroom, into the bedroom. There were so many holes. I don't even understand how that happens. But at that moment, I was done. I was like, I am done doing rental properties. And so I was at this impasse because another thing that was happening is physically, I couldn't do when I was in my 20s, I could just be like, oh, well, I'll just work longer. I'll just work an extra hour. Or I'll work an extra day, or I'll work a Saturday or Sunday afternoon to make it happen. And if I ever needed to make money, I never had a problem making money because I could always just rely on my body to help somebody move or clean something out or do some job or something, and I could physically do it. So at age 35, for any of you that are younger than 35, it's coming where your body, I've been working since I was like 6. I grew up in a catering business, and every day after school, we worked. We cleaned dishes and took out trash and loaded and unloaded vans, and, we were doing that every day after school. So, I mean, I've been working for a while, and your body starts wearing out. And so that's what was happening. I just physically could not do all the things that I used to could. So now I'm so used to having this, $6,000 to $8,000 a month income from all my rental properties, and my goal again was to have $1 million under asset. I got up to $500,000, 485, and then what happened is the market changed, and after the housing crash, all these mutual fund companies and other companies started going in and buying rentals, and then there was also people that were locals that were just trying to keep their guys busy, and so they didn't need to make $50,000 or $30,000 on a flip. They only needed to make $5,000 or whatever just to break even to keep their painter and drywall guy alive, And so that, along with these mutual fund companies coming in, buying properties, completely rehabbing them, and then again offering low rents because they didn't have to pay for a management fee, a 10% management fee from a management company because they own their own management company. And so anyway, this snowball happened that very rapidly. I remember I listed that last house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, center of town, middle income house. and I listed it for like $800 a month and could not find a tenant. And what was happening was everybody else had the same idea too in that area, and the place was flooded with rentals. In fact, the area was now like the whole city in Montgomery was 35% rentals, meaning that every third house was a rental house. So it was no longer profitable for me to do that. So what happened is that I then had to start cannibalizing those properties, meaning, you kick the can down the road and you're trying to wait for the next thing to happen, and it just doesn't happen. And when I made the decision I was getting out of the rentals, I then had to fix them up to sell. And so I fixed one up, sell it, fix one up, sell it. And so slowly, as the market in my area continued to go down, I was getting out of these houses. At the same time, this is one of my vices, by the way. I'm supposed to start not having Coca-Cola tomorrow. Hopefully that'll happen. So I'm now having to cannibalize my properties. My body is not doing what I'm telling it to do. When you're I remember waking up, I remember talking to my father, and I woke up and I said, man, my neck hurts. My dad just started laughing at me. He said, how old are you? I think I was like 33 when I asked him, and he was like, yeah, just wait. And I remember I was about to turn, I think I was about to turn 35, and I'd called him and I said, Daddy, I still feel strong. I still feel like I could take care of myself if I needed to. But when did you start feeling less strong? And he's like, how old are you? And I said, 30. At the time I was 34, about to turn 35. He's like, yeah, 35. So I'm now cannibalizing my properties. I'm also burnt out on church. So I've been involved in church and different ministries at church, from reading scripture, doing the Lord's Supper, being a greeter. Anytime they ever had, projects that the church was going to participate in, or go clean up somebody's yard, or take food or supplies down to hurricane victims, or any of that kind of stuff, I was always involved. Any kind of food service that we had, I was helping do chairs and tables, and I also did outreach ministries. I did mission trips. So I was always very, very involved. And then, like I told you, I led Bible study on Sunday and Wednesday. And so as you get older, the group of people that you're ministering to gets older as well, and it's a very difficult demographic, because there's a lot of hurting people, that need professional help. And I'm not a professional caretaker or psychologist or psychiatrist or any of those things, nor am I even a licensed or professional minister. I was just willing to provide my house and willing to lead the Bible study. It was not because I had some special knowledge or power. I was just willing. So that was a drain. And then I also had a small, it felt big, it felt enormous at the time, falling out with some of my church leaders. There was transitionings going on in the church. There was differences in opinion on what was allowed and what was not allowed. There was maybe some egos involved, my own, as well as some of our elders and deacons, and some of them didn't communicate, and there was no clear path on what the education or Bible study was supposed to be. It was just what I came up with. And then, I didn't really ask for permission to lead a Bible study, and so I was experiencing burnout from that. I don't know if you've ever tried to take care of a plant or an animal or a kid. It is exhausting. And so I was here ministering to, between 10 and 25 people, and I was exhausted. Here are people coming to me with their problems, and sharing very personal things with me, and I knew the Bible answers. I knew, what to tell them. I could give them chapter and verse on encouraging verses, but I was struggling myself. So now we get to 2016. I have cannibalized almost all of my properties. I'm having this upheaval in my faith. Not with God. My faith in God's always been good. It's people. And that, I'm sure some of you are shaking your head, yeah, if you've made it this far in the video, that, yeah, people are very frustrating. And so I'm not making the money that I was making. I am no longer in a leadership position. I've stopped leading the Bible study, and I basically stopped all that. And then I also took a new job because I was literally at rock bottom. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. Here I had stopped my mentorship, my website, stopped the market that I was in, the rental properties, and I didn't know what to do. And I had one of my best friend come to me and say, "All right, what are you doing? What's the plan?" And I said, "Man, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I've exhausted all things that I can think of." And he said, "Well, look, I am about to build a hotel in Alpharetta, Georgia, and I need an assistant, and there's nobody that I trust more than you, and it'll be hard work, but if you're willing to come, company will pay for expenses, and you'll be in a new city, and maybe it'll be good for you, and and I know I can trust you to work with me." That ended up being a 2-year gig and was really great in a lot of respects. And I'm still building hotels. I'm moving into the superintendent role, and so I'm about to build another hotel here in Dothan. But after I left Alpharetta, I went to Niceville, Florida, and I had been there maybe a month, and the pandemic happened. And I remember walking in, and my superintendent, my boss, and one of the subs were having this frantic conversation. And basically the sub was saying, "We're leaving and we're not coming back. Like, this pandemic is about to, kill a third of the world. It's going to be the next Black Plague." They just thought it was just... And I was like, "What are y'all talking about?" And they were like, "Oh, this pandemic, it's this COVID." And I'm like, in my mind, I'm still in the mindset of, basically, if you have mental problems, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, you're so scared of some disease, like, you're a wuss. And I'm just being straight with you. That's kind of how I've always been. Like, people would be like, "Oh, my anxiety." And I'm like, you just are a pansy and you don't want to work, or you don't want, right? And so that's kind of where I was. I always felt that about people. Like, I didn't understand, but like, well, they could do it. They don't see their kids, but they're in the same town. I mean, they could see their kids anytime they wanted to. They say they're depressed, and I didn't understand. I understand now, which is why I'm doing this video. So they're talking about this pandemic, and they're saying, yeah, they're shutting down the cruise lines, they're shutting down Disney World, and I was like, wait a minute. They're shutting down Disney? They're closing Disney? They're closing what are you talking about? And they were like, "Matthew, don't you watch the news?" I was like, "No, I don't watch the news. The news is biased and boring, and it only talks about negative stuff, and I'm a positive person. I don't want to even pay attention to any of that stuff." Well, they said, "No, Matt, this is really serious." So all of a sudden, our hotel build stops, and we get a letter from our company saying, "Hey, you guys are essential. Put this letter in your truck so that you can keep working, and y'all are going to keep working, and we're going to do hand washing stations and wear masks and all this stuff." And then Florida shut down all the beaches, shut down the churches, the restaurants. So all of a sudden, I'm in a city where I don't know anybody. Employee-wise, we're upper management, so we're not like buddies with. I mean, you have some friends, but it's not like you hang out with your subcontractors after work most of the time. And so I was literally crock potting food for the week and going home after 10 hours of work and then watching Netflix. And like I've told you earlier in the video, I'm an ESFJ, so I'm very outgoing. Well, all of a sudden, I've told you I was empty. I was tired of spinning plates. I've kind of stopped doing ministry work. I've stopped doing my all my businesses. I've always owned multiple businesses, and now I don't own any businesses. And I'm just trying to get my act together again. Now we got the pandemic. Now I can't even go to church, so there's no outlet to even go praise and worship. You can't. So there's no church. There's no bar. There's no beach. You can't even go on the beach. And so I felt lonesome and lonely. And I'm not a lonely person. Like I go to eat by myself plenty of the time. I would never describe myself as a lonesome person. But I experienced lonesomeness in those months. There was about a 6-month period there that it got really, really frustrating. I already shared in another video about my first and second anxiety attack that I'd never had before. Horrible feelings. Horrible, horrible feelings. Thankfully, I've never been suicidal, but part of why we're talking about this, men's health, suicide is very real. There's people that there doesn't seem to be a way out, and that's the only way they can think to come out of their depression. So I was very lonesome, and work was not filling that void, and then there was nothing extracurricular I could do. Then the next town I got sent to was even smaller, where there was only about 10,000 people in the city. And so anyway, let's fast forward to the city I'm in now. It was June 20th of this year, was my birthday. I was turning 44. My best friend and his wife were going to take me to dinner. And he had already been texting me throughout the day, hey, be thinking about what you want for dinner. Let's go get steak. Let's go get sushi. And I found myself sitting in the shower, and I was uncontrollably crying. I was sobbing, just sobbing. Couldn't even speak. I couldn't call my best friend and tell him why. I just texted him and I said, I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm sitting in the shower. I've been crying for an hour. I can't stop crying. And I don't know why. And I said, I'll talk to you about it when I get out of this. The way I'll take a sip here. The way I described it to him, if I can manage to get through this without crying again, it was a horrible, horrible feeling. I felt like, this is the way I told him, I said, I felt like I was standing in front of a void, just an emptiness in front of me, just nothingness, an empty void. And my brain kept going through this 20, 30-second loop. No one loves you. If you fell into this hole, no one would miss you. Life would go on. And even though mentally mentally, I know I have an amazing family. I have great health care. I have a great income. I have assets. I have family and friends and faith and church friends. And I should be, on the human scale, there's not much richer and greater life that you can have. I'm way in the top percentile. I'm obviously not missing any meals, right? I have a good life. And yet here I am, crying, sobbing, with this void in front of me, and this voice that I don't recognize. The voice. I don't know about you, but I have a couple of voices inside me. My really positive, uplifting voice, the one that says, you can do anything. Now, that one's my mom, Matthew, you can do anything. The voice that is my financial voice, that's my dad's voice. My dad's voice inside my head is the voice of reason. It's the, you don't need that. How much money is that going to cost? That's my dad's voice. The reasonable one. And then I also have my best friend's voice, who's the one that's like a motivator. So that voice is, get up, get up, get up. I know you don't want to get up, do it, quit being a wuss, get up. Right, so that's Brian's voice. I didn't recognize this voice that was saying, fall in the void. You're going to fall in this void, and you're not going to be missed. No one loves you. As you can see, it even to remember those emotions are very painful. And I don't know where that voice comes from, right? I don't know if it's the devil. I don't know. So, give me just a second. Woo. Now, what's funny, anybody that's watching this that knows me, if we've ever had Bible study together, they know I'm a crier. So, this is not new. So, if you see me crying, or if you're crying too, all right, focus. Gonna get through this. So, I have, in most families, I'm sure, I have people in my family. My mom had a mental break at age 40 when my parents were going through their divorce. She ended up in Jackson's mental ward and has been, with counselors and all. And she's a very high extrovert on the scale. And, when you're a very high extrovert like me, and she is, that makes your highs really high and then makes your lows really low. And so she, my mom had struggled with depression. My dad has always struggled with depression and negative feelings, and my sister had some postpartum depression after the after one of her children were born. And so, but I'd kind of thought, you know, I had been depressed, like I had had a down day before. Everybody's had a bad day or a sad day or even a breakup or you know, where your heart is hurting. A family member dies, you lose a job, you get fired, all those things have happened. And those things suck, but most of the time that's just life, you know. You're either climbing up the mountain, you're at a mountaintop, or you're falling down the mountain into the valley. I mean, that's life. Very, very few mountain peak experiences. Most of the time you're either climbing up or you're falling down. That's life. But this wasn't this was not that. And this was not that. So I knew that I needed to start checking resources to find out what was happening. And that's why I'm doing this video, because I'm hoping that, I hope this doesn't come across as arrogant, but I think to myself, if somebody like me that has a great family, people that love him, a great job, I'm outgoing, I'm charismatic, I do well in life for myself, and by all measures, I am a success. If I can be laying or sitting in my shower crying uncontrollably on my birthday for no reason, then I know that there are people that have genuinely worse lives, that have problems with drugs, alcohol, family, faith, incarceration, all the way down the list, that struggle as well. And so I thought, if I could create a video, even if it helps one person that says, Matthew, I struggle with depression and I need resources on trying to figure out how to get out of this, then this is worth it. Embarrassing myself a little bit to cry on camera and share what I'm feeling, to help somebody, then that's why I'm doing this. So I knew from my birthday of this year that something wasn't right. That's not right. Like, I've been depressed, but this falling into the void that stayed on for hours, it stayed on that 20-second loop. I just kept falling into the void, falling into the hole. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what I did or thought or prayed or ate or slept, or nothing got me out of the mindset until it finally just stopped. So I was like, I've got to figure out what's wrong with this. So a couple of things that I am trying to make actively doing. I've been to the doctor. I told them what was going on. I wanted to check all my hormones. I do have some ups and downs in hormones. We're working on getting those leveled back out to normal. I'm also just started this book. A friend, I posted this the other day. This is called Out of the Cave, Stepping into the Light When Depression Darkens What You See by Chris Hodges. It's a great book. You can find it on Amazon. Chris Hodges is the senior pastor of Church of the Highlands. Great church. And so I'm reading this with a friend. I'm also getting my hormones looked at. I've also have been to counseling multiple times. I've also started doing some motivation. There's some YouTube channels that have different meditation and motivation mixed in. And then also, starting December 1st, which is tomorrow, I will start a new program on trying to get my diet and exercise in order so that my body can naturally heal. If you're exercising, you're releasing endorphins. Your body works better when you're using it. So get back to being on a regular workout schedule and hopefully eating better and sleeping better. And hopefully all of those things will go in concert together to help my mental health. But I hope that you will as well. I hope that that you don't let it get so far that you don't reach out and speak to somebody, to talk to somebody, and make it clear, that not just, hey, I'm sad, or hey, I'm having a bad day, or what, but genuinely tell somebody, like, this is not just a bad day. This is not just, I'm sad. Like, I am in a hole and I need help. And I just want to pray with you right now. I've never done this on YouTube, but I've prayed with a lot of people, and I want to pray with you. I don't know how you pray, but I just want to pray with you. Would you close your eyes with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for blessing us. We live in a crazy, crazy world that's got all kinds of junk happening. Lots and lots of noise, and people arguing, and wars and fighting, and sickness and pandemic and worriness and loneliness. And God, I hope that you will be with whoever I'm praying for on this video, Lord. Whoever's watching this and needs your help. Pray that you will give them the opportunity to put people in their lives that can help them. Give them the strength to reach out, to find help, whether it be from a doctor, a psychologist, a minister, a dietitian, a fitness expert, someone, Lord, that can help keep our physical bodies going while you work on our spiritual side, Lord. We know we are spiritual beings in physical bodies, Lord, and we just pray that you will help us to have the mental health and the strength, and that knowing that we are worthy and that we are loved and that we are better in the world than in the void. Thank you so much for loving us and listening to us, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. I hope this has helped you guys. Please feel free to share. And if there's anything I can do to help, find me on social media, and I'll be glad to talk to you if I can. I hope you guys have a blessed day.